Hi there, I'm Michelle the Painter. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to paint candy hearts 3 different ways. So it's around Valentine's Day and I thought this would be a great fun exercise to learn how to make some little edible creations with some acrylic paint. So I'll be working on 3 canvases. You could certainly just work on, canvas paper or boards or pads or whatever. This is just a nice exercise, but if you want to paint on canvas, stretched canvas, you certainly can. So these are 3 stretched canvases that are 9-inch wide by 12-inch tall. So you can, again, use whatever size you'd like, but that's what I'm going to be doing. I am using acrylic paint today. My colors are titanium white, Mars black, burnt umber, which I like to call brown sometimes, burnt sienna, which sometimes I call rust. I have fire red, deep yellow, ultramarine blue, and fluorescent pink. And I will be calling these colors out as I use them. You can certainly switch up yours if you'd like to. For my tools today, I do have a standard number 2 pencil that I'm going to be using to just draw on where I want my hearts to be placed, because they're going to be candy hearts. And then I have 3 brushes from my personal brush line, which is Michelle the Painter brushes. I have a 3/4 inch wide flat bristle brush. I have a large, this is a natural / synthetic blender. It looks similar to a filbert brush, only the bristles are shorter. And then I have a number 3 round synthetic brush. And of course you can switch those up if you'd like, but that's what I'll be using. If you're painting along with me, you're probably going to want to have a cup of water for washing your brushes, as well as a paper towel for drying your brushes. And down below this video, in the video description, I do provide you with a couple of additional resources that can help you throughout the painting process. There is a link to my shop where you could purchase things from my shop individually, like the brushes from my brush line. There's also going to be a link of the materials that I've used, or a list of the materials that I've used, as well as a link where you can download an image of the final paintings that I do, so you can print those and use them as visual reference as you go through the painting process. And that's all you're going to need today. So I'm just going to get right into the painting process. I am going to be starting with my large bristle brush. I'm doing a base coat on my canvases with just white because I want a white background. And although I'm starting with a white canvas, I do need to protect that canvas. So when you buy canvas from the store that says that it's pre-primed, it usually comes white or black. The primer that's on it is not intended to be the final coat of paint. It's just intended to be a layer of a substance that is going to have or allow your paint to stick to the canvas surface. So if you do want it to stay white, you can either paint it white or you can apply a finished varnish on top of it later. So I am just taking my white paint and doing a thin coat so I can make sure that my canvas is nice and fully protected. Again, you do not need to paint the whole thing. You could certainly just paint around the edges wherever you feel that your hearts are not going to be. But I do definitely recommend, if you do want to have, again, a white background, that you paint it white or protect it afterwards with a varnish or something that is going to protect that canvas, because the canvas, without that protection on it, the acrylic paint will provide the protection, but if you don't have the acrylic paint on it, the canvas itself, if you leave it with just that primer on it, it tends to age not well. What'll happen is it'll look like it gets dirty over time because, again, it's not intended to be, the primer is not, or the gesso, whatever you want to refer to that as, is not intended to be the final coat of paint on it. So I am just kind of making sure I have a nice thin layer on here. And then once you've got this on here, I am going to do a nice simple drawing of some hearts. But my canvases are wet right now, and drawing on a wet canvas is not super easy, so I'm going to blow dry my canvas really quick. So I'm going to fast forward the video during this process because, it's blow drying. So I'll be back in a minute. what I'm going to do for now is my canvases are dry. I'm going to be drawing 3 heart shapes. You can, of course, make yours any shapes that you want. I'm going to be doing a chocolate heart here, a lollipop heart here, and then one of those little sweetheart candies over here. So I'm making them really big. I'm having this one kind of centered, and then these 2 are going to be kind of out like this. In case you want to hang these as a set, that would make a nice kind of composition for it. I'm doing mine really large on the canvas. You can, of course, make yours any way that you want. So, of course, as you're watching me create mine, you can, of course, make yours similar in nature, but I'm not bringing the dip of the heart down too far, and at the bottom, I'm kind of curving it just a little bit on this one. I'll do a similar kind of heart for this, for the lollipop one, but I'm going to try and make this one a little bit straighter. And, of course, you could... If drawing is not your thing, you could certainly take the images of my final painting, and you can just trace them onto your canvas if you want to. This is a nice small canvas, so you could use those the printable things to trace on as well. And then this one over here, this one's going to be a little bit less dipped in the center, and even on the bottom, I'm having it more rounded, because this will be more representational of those heart candies, and that's what I'm trying to do here, is make candies. So you can, of course, make yours, very traditionally heart shaped, but you can see this is kind of rounder at the bottom. And that's how I'm starting. So now what I'm going to do, now that I've got them in position, and this one's going to have a lollipop stick in it, but we'll just paint that on later in the process. Now I'm going to make 3 different base coats for my lollipops. I'm going to do a chocolate color here. So I'm going to make these colors down on my palette using my number 3 round brush. So my chocolate color, I'm going to go for kind of a milk chocolate color. I'm going to be using a combination of my burnt sienna and brown. So about equal parts of my burnt sienna and my burnt umber, and then just a tiny bit of white paint. And I'm going to spin these together, and it's going to create a nice base coat for my chocolate candy. So this looks pretty good. Maybe a little bit more burnt umber. That looks a little on the reddish side. So just a little bit more of my burnt umber. So that'll be my base coat for my chocolate one. And then I'm going to go for my base coat of my red one, which you could just use red, but I want mine to resemble more of kind of a like a see-through kind of lollipop. So I'm going to use my fire red, and I am going to add a touch of yellow and a touch of white to it. I'm going to start that base a little, not necessarily on the oranger side, but definitely a little bit more orange and a touch lighter than my fire red. So somewhere in 3, I think I even want a little tiny more touch of white in there. And then I will build my way to those vibrant red tones. Just put my head over here just a little bit so I can see if that's the tone I want. A little extra white in through there. There we go. And then once I've got that color, I'm going to move to so I'm going to just call this my lollipop red. Again, it's a little bit lighter than my fire red, with a touch of orange or a touch of yellow in it. And then I'm going to make my sweetheart pink red, or pink color. So I'm going to use pink with some white. This is going pretty darn light here. Pink with some white, and this is just going to give me a base coat of a nice light pink color, and that'll be my base coat for my sweetheart candy. So I need some more of that though, because that's not going to be enough. And then once I've got those 3 tones, I am going to be using my large bristle brush to get the base coat onto them. So that looks pretty good. So I'm going to wash and dry my large brush. Just getting it dry here, washing it, and it doesn't have to be perfectly clean, but just something that'll work out for me. And then I'm going to paint these base coats on. So when I'm painting these base coats on, I don't necessarily need it to be a perfect coat. I know that because I am working on a lighter surface, I use student grade paint, so my student grade paint is going to tend to be on the more transparent side. So I'm not totally concerned about getting a perfect coverage on this coat. My biggest concern is just getting something onto the canvas that is going to assist me in my future steps. So I went for what is, in my opinion, the dominant color in the candy, and I'm just going ahead and painting a coat onto here. So I might end up having a little bit of my my outline still showing. It might show through my paint, which is fine by me, because I know I've got lots of other steps to go, and because we used such a easy background, which is white paint, if I need to make any corrections along the edges of my candy, I can just use my white paint and I can just layer that on until I cover anything that needs to be covered. And then once I've got it on here, I do just kind of wipe my brush off and try and get rid of really the super evident brush strokes. So you can just, with light pressure, just kind of bring your brush, sweep it across, and that'll get rid of a lot of the big stroke marks. And then I'm going to wash my brush, and I'm going to do the same thing for my center lollipop. So again, wash and dry my brush. And of course, you could use a smaller brush. If this brush isn't the right size for you, you could certainly use a larger one or a smaller one or a softer one, whatever works for you. Everybody's got their own preference as to what brushes are their favorite brushes, and I love my bristle brushes, so I use them a lot, even when I'm doing just these base coats. Even if I probably could have used a smaller brush, I know that I got some good control with these brushes, so I tend to use them a lot. And then again, just kind of go into the edges of this. And if you run out of a pre-mixed color, you can always just make more. And if you have difficulty matching what you did for the first time that you made it, what I recommend doing is, let's say I needed to make more of this red. I'm not terribly concerned if my next batch is going to be exactly the same as this one, because this is a type of object that I don't need a solid color throughout it. I know that this object that I'm doing, oops, I just painted into my background. I know that this object that I'm doing has lots of different tones to it, so I'm okay with, if I need to make another version of this red, if I don't nail it on the same exact color. So just a little vote of confidence for you if you do need to make more, because I know I'm going to have to make more. I can already tell. And then again, I just wipe out or brush out any really thick spots or spots that needed attending to. I could also, with this little spot here, if I take my small blender brush, I could put a little bit of water on it, and if I catch this boo-boo fast enough with a little bit of water and a firm brush, I can get rid of it. So there goes my boo-boo. Oh, I just made another one. Hold on, let me now correct the new boo-boo I just made. But again, if you catch these before they're fully cured or fully dried, you can, with water, because it's a water-soluble paint, you can kind of just push it back or kind of get rid of it with a little bit of water. I know I'm also going to have a shadow there, so I'm not, again, terribly concerned. Washing and drying my brush so I can put my pink on my Sweetheart one. So wash and dry my brush, give it a good squeeze on my paper towel. Then I'm going to use that light pink that I created, and again, just kind of get it on here, get around those edges. And this one is much more, the edges of this candy are much more forgiving, because this candy is made of like a chalk kind of substance. Chalk, that's probably not a good word to use for edible food, but it's like a chalky, compressed powdery kind of substance, powdery, sugary. I'm clearly not a culinary expert. But so the edges to this one could actually be chipped and bumped and little fuzziness to the edges if you wanted to. So again, working these edges is not terribly, they don't have to be perfect. Most things don't have to be perfect in painting. And then again, I'm just going to take my brush lightly and blend out any really thick spots. So now that I have my base coats on, now what I'm going to do is start working on my highlights and shadows. These are still pretty wet, so while they're drying, I'm going to do a shadow of the candies on the surface. So I'm going to be using my my large blender brush, and I don't want to do anything super invasive, so I'm going to just make myself a gray color. I'm going to use white with a touch of black and a touch of brown, and just kind of make myself a gray tone. You can always increase this shadow later, or I might add more tones to it, but I just want to give myself some kind of shadow to give it a little bit of dimension. I'm going to have my light source kind of up center, so this one would be shadowed to the left, this one would be shadowed under, and this one would be shadowed to the right. So I'm just going to take and give myself a similar shape to, or just ride the edge of this like this, and then I can, as I get towards this top part, if I want it to look like it's kind of coming off that surface a little bit, I can just give myself this little bit of a shadow, and where it's meeting that white, I can pick up a little bit of white and then just kind of blend this out. So I'm getting that shadow to be more diffused or faint as it goes farther away from the object. So I just keep picking up white as I go farther and farther away from that object, and it's going to get that shadow to go almost disappear into the white background. And of course you can fiddle with that as much as you want. I'm going to wash my brush so I can get a little bit more white on this area in through here, just to blend it a little bit more. And you can have those shadows as dramatic or as subtle as you want. That's going to be totally up to you. This one here, I'm just going to do a little bit maybe down the bottom side of it. I'm going to take it maybe from in here. Just kind of place this shadow somewhere. I kind of want it down a little bit on both sides because the light source is up above, so I'm just going to pull a little shadow down both sides like this. And I'm going to have the stick, the popsicle or the lollipop stick on there too, but I'll do that one after I actually put the stick on. And you could also, if you didn't want to blend it with white, you can do as I'm doing right now, which is I'm just kind of dry brush blending it. So I get it on there and then I wipe my brush off, make sure I don't have any more paint on my brush or very little, and then I can just kind of dry brush it into the surrounding white. I am going to pick up a little bit more white because it didn't blend as much as I wanted it to, and then I can just take and blend it out a little bit. So then I'll go ahead and do the other one. So that looks pretty good to me there. And again, you can certainly make it more if you wanted to, but I'm going for kind of subtle on this one. And then this one I'm going to do kind of the reverse of what I did to the brown one. So I'm going to take this and just kind of give myself a little shadow over there. And then just kind of ride along the edge and through here. And then this one might be a little bit wider. We're just going to kind of blend this out. And now I've got my shadow on that right side. That looks pretty good. And again, if you wanted it any darker, you could, pick up a tiny bit more black. I kind of feel like I want it just a little bit darker, maybe right as it meets here. And I might fiddle with it later too, but just gonna kind of fiddle a little bit right now. And then you just play. It's all about playing and enjoying the process. There we go. There we go. So the thicker it is, the more it's gonna give that object a little bit of height. There we go. All right, so now that I've got some cool shadows on there, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start, if I can ever stop the shadows, I'm gonna start adding my details to the candies themselves. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add some darkness to each one. So I have the contouring shadows from my light source, and then I'll add some highlights. So on my chocolate one, I've got my light sources over to the right. So if I want this area to look like it's kind of bumping out, I'll put a shadow in through here, and then I'm going to put a shadow over on this side. So I'm going to use burnt umber to start my shadow, and then I'll blend it into my base color. So I'm going to start with some burnt umber. I'm going to go down this left-hand side first and just kind of pull it down this side. I feel like I'm going to want a little bit of reflection on this side as well, but to show that the chocolate is shiny, but I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. So I'm just kind of bringing my burnt umber down there, and then in through here I'm going to put this darkness right in this little crevice, or this little contour right in through here, and then I can blend it out with my chocolate color that we pre-mixed, the color that we made for the base coat. And then I just kind of blend it out. I'm going to take this up here. I did not wash my brush when I started to pick up my my pre-mixed color, so this way it will whatever burnt umber is still on my brush will fade into, or release itself from my brush into the rest of the chocolate. And I'm going to make sure that I have a second coat on these guys as I am creating this layer in through here. So I am just adding more of my original chocolate color just to give me a second coat, and then we'll add some highlights to it in a bit as well. But this is just my second coat on here, allowing for, you can even clean up your edges. And then as I get towards this top part, I am gonna still pick up my original color, but I'm gonna pick up a tiny bit of white as well. So I picked up my my base coat of my chocolate plus a tiny bit of white up on this left-hand side, and then I'll do the same thing up here. So my base coat of my milk chocolate plus a little bit of white, and this is going to give me the start of my shinier spots of my chocolate. And then you just pick up your original base coat just to blend it out. So something like that. So it may not look perfect yet. This is just kind of a nice process to get those highlights and shadows started. And then I might feel like I want just a touch more of the lightness right in through here. There we go. And then I'll go work on the other ones while these are settling, and then we'll come back and put some nice final details on these. So this one in through here, I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I want there to be some highlights and shadows, but I want this to kind of look like it has some height to it. So I'm going to use my fire red with a touch of black. So I'm going to take a tiny bit of black and mix it in with some of my fire red. I'm still just using this the blender brush. And I'm going to go a little bit away from the top of here, and I'm going to just kind of dot, kind of stipple in. Well, I guess I'm stippling and I'm brushing. Stipple and kind of brush in like a little dark area in through there. And then I'm going to do the same on the edge of it. So you can kind of just rub it in on that edge. And then I think I need more paint on my palette. So I'm just making a little bit more. So I'm really just making like a really dark red paint. I definitely want some of this kind of around, just a little bit around those edges, just to give it a touch of that dimensional element. So this little spot in through here is going to tell the viewer that there's that little like height to it. We're seeing almost like a little shadowy part inside, and then I can slowly get this to just fade off in the distance here, and then on the side of the lollipop in through here, I can take this color and just kind of rub it along this side until it kind of fades off into that edge. I can put some of it over here on this left side as well. So just a little bit down on this bottom left side. So I got a little something in my paint, there we go. So a little bit of this darkness down on this bottom left hand side. Something like that. Now I can also start where I want my my stick, my lollipop stick. So I can take this darkness and I can give kind of a deep spot in through here that the stick is going to come up into. Maybe somewhere in through here. All these dark spots are going to give me my kind of foundation for that lollipop stick. And then I can just kind of bring these little dark areas up into the lollipop, explaining that there's some sort of object in there that is making this depression or shadow into the candy, the sugary candy itself. You can even kind of take and put a tiny spot up at the top, something like that. And then down in through here, I'm going to wash my brush and I'm going to pick up a little bit of brown and white on my brush. So brown and white. And I'm just going to give myself the line of the popsicle stick. So somewhere in through here. And we'll make this, you know, more suitable or with a little bit more details with a smaller brush, but this just kind of gets us started. And this was brown and white plus whatever other dirties were on my brush. I might have had a little red too. So something like that. And just you want to kind of line it up with that thing in through there. And then I'm going to wash my brush. And I do want a second coat of something in through here. And again, I want there to be a little bit of dimension to it. So I'm going to pick up a touch of red plus a teeny tiny bit of brown. So this is red with a little bit of brown. And I'm just going to kind of give myself kind of a messy, scumbling brush stroke around some of these edges, like in through here. Actually, I think I want this a little bit higher in through here. This is just going to, again, give me some dimension throughout here. I feel like I want a little bit more kind of it just in that middle, something like that. And then I can just pick up red to give myself, you can see now the actual fire red against that original red. It's going to give you these multiple tones within the candy. So I'm just kind of speckling in some fire red, and then I'll pick up some of my original color as well, that kind of lighter tone. And we'll do some highlights and stuff in a future step. Maybe a little bit of this fire red down this right side of where that thing is, and then maybe some of that original, I've run out of my original light red, so hold on. We're gonna make some more light red right here on the fly. So it was red plus a touch of yellow plus a teeny touch of white. That gives me my light red tone. There we go. And then again, similar to how I did the chocolate one, I want to make sure that I have a good second coat on the whole thing. So I'm just kind of dabbing it right now to make sure that I have a good second coat everywhere without overdoing anything. I'm going to put a nice highlight on in a future step, but again, this is just kind of getting the party started. And then this guy over here, I'm going to wash my brush. I'm going to be using that light pink, and I'm going to add a touch of blue to it to give me a darker tone. So I've got my light pink, and I'm going to add just a teeny touch of my ultramarine blue into it, and this is going to give me my shadowy color. If you feel that you need it deeper and darker, you can always add a little bit more fluorescent pink plus the purple, so that'll give you just kind of a deeper purpley tone. And if you don't like that shade, you can turn it into whatever you want. I'm just adding a little bit more blue to mine. There we go. And that's going to give me my shadowy color. I'm going to take this over here on this right hand side. This is the one where I want it to kind of look like it's kind of taller, so I'm going to take where this where the point is, right in through here. I'm going to make it pretty dark over here on this right hand side, and then it kind of slivers itself up. I don't know if that's the right word, but the area gets more slender as it goes up this side. And then on the left-hand side, I can take this shadowy color and kind of do a similar thing coming down this left-hand side. And then I'm going to transition to this, to the base color that we used. So I just picked up some of the base color, something like that. So it's a little bit darker in through here, and if you felt like you wanted to make it even darker, you could also use that dark tone that you made with a little bit of burnt sienna, and that'll give you an even darker kind of tone in through here. So just something a little bit darker, and again, it's candy, so it doesn't have to be perfect. And then as I come up towards the top, I'm just going to use my dirty brush, and I'm going to start picking up that original color and doing this kind of scumbling brush stroke. So my dirty brush plus the light pink for the second coat on top, like this, and I'm working my way to the light side of it, which is over here to the left-hand corner. Oops, went outside my lines a little bit, no worries. And then as I'm coming over towards this left-hand side, I'm gonna start picking up a little bit of white on my brush. So a little bit of white, again, still just scumbling, so I have this textural type of appearance to it. And I can even bring a little bit of this white, lighter tone down in through here. And again, I'm gonna hit it one more time after I hit the other ones with, this one definitely it's getting a message on the front of it, but the little highlighted area, I'll hit that again too. I just picked up a little bit of my white plus that pink. There we go. And that looks nice to me. Maybe just a little bit in through here. There we go. So now that I've got that done, I'm going to wash my brush. I'm hitting this chocolate one again. And this time I am definitely going to make sure that I have a nice highlight. I do want another coat. I actually think for purposes of anything other than I just don't want to lift my paint, I'm going to hit it with a blow dryer again. So I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hit them with another pass, and then we'll do some final little details of highlights and shadows. So on the chocolate one, I'm basically going to be doing the same thing that I did on the last round, which is hit my shadowy side, maybe even a little bit darker. I might add a little bit of black into my shadow. Smooth this out. I'll probably use a little bit of burnt sienna this time around, and then amp up my highlights. So I'm going to start with a little bit of brown and a touch of black, because I feel as though I want this to be just a little bit more intensified down in this little corner here to show the height of the piece of chocolate. And I'm doing mine so it has kind of rounded edges to it, but you could of course make yours looking like it's got stiff edges like the Lollipop does. Again, a little bit of my burnt umber plus a touch of black just to deepen these couple of little areas, a smudge. And then I'm going to pick up my burnt umber to smooth this out just a little bit more in through here. I feel like I want a little highlight on this side, so I'm going to pick up my original, my chocolate brown color, just to smooth that out, as if this is almost a little reflective over here on the bottom of this side. That'll give that a nice appearance. And then picking up a little bit more burnt umber coming around this corner. So as I'm doing this, I'm just thinking, how is this going to transition from dark to light and look smooth and look shiny and yummy? I'm transitioning into my original milk chocolate kind of color as I'm coming over into here. Now I feel like I'm probably going to want to pick up a little bit of burnt sienna. I feel as though I want a little kind of, not necessarily reddish tones, but definitely a little shinier kind of tones. So I'm dipping into some burnt sienna right now and just allowing myself to add these tones on here, so it will give it a little bit more of a transition from that milk chocolatey type of color. I'm picking up more of the original color, the milk chocolate. It just allows it to have a little bit more shine to it when you can transition some luminosity of other colors. So again, I just picked up a little bit more burnt sienna. Maybe this side's got a little bit more burnt sienna because it's being hit with the light differently. So as you're going through the, how to make these have an effect of the light, the side with the light is typically going to have more vibrant tones to it, or more saturated tones. So even in through here, I could pick up my burnt sienna plus a touch of my yellow, and this is going to give me an even kind of more vibrant tone to it, or light tone. You could pick up your milk chocolate plus a little bit of yellow plus a tiny bit of white, and that's going to give you just the hint of maybe a little bit of shine to it in through there. On the top side of it, I'm going to pick up a little bit of white plus my, I think white with whatever dirtiness is on my brush is gonna do me just fine. So whatever I had on my brush, I'm just kind of rolling with that as my highlight color right now, and then just kind of allowing for it to hit here just a little bit. That looks nice. And then just blend into that chocolate part. I'm going to pick up a little bit more white on my dirty brush. I'm going to have a nice highlight right in through here. Maybe a little bit more white. Let's get that a little bit brighter. That looks nice. I had to lift my head back to see if that was what I wanted it to be. And then you can certainly blend out that highlight to get it to look like it is just softening into the shine of the chocolate itself. Maybe a little bit more burnt sienna right in here, making sure that I've got everywhere covered with a second coat. And while that's dry, I'm feeling like I'm pretty satisfied with how that has come out. I might tweak it a little bit more, but I'm gonna give it a minute to dry. Maybe a little bit of lightness up and through here. Feeling like this should be a little bit lighter. There we go. And maybe this too. So I know I'm gonna go to the next one soon, but now I need to just make sure I'm satisfying my brain here. I think that looks good. Maybe a little more burnt sienna. It's hard to stop, I tell you, especially when you're making chocolate or like fun candies. It's like the more you layer on and the more you start to explore these different colors to them, it's like you start getting hungry. You start wanting to go to the store and buy some chocolate. So you just sit here and live vicariously through your painting for a little while. There we go. That's good. I'm going to go on to the next one. I'm washing my brush. Actually, I think I'm gonna hit this stick first. I wash my brush. I'm gonna use my number 3 round. I'm picking up a little bit of white paint to put a nice highlight on this stick in through here. Then I'm gonna pick up a little bit of brown and white to give myself a little or just a little bit of brown, I guess, just to transition to the sides of my stick. And you can also make a little area, a little shadow down the side of your stick if you wanted to, but I don't know if I'm gonna, maybe a little bit of black and water on my brush. Just give myself just a little tiny shadow down the side, something like this. You could use the other brush too, but I'm just opting for a little bit of black and water on my dirty brush. That'll make the stick pop out a little bit more. I'm picking up a little bit more black to get this part of the stick to pop out where it is just kind of meeting the candy right in through here. And you can amp up these dark little marks. That's what I'm doing right now with a little bit of black. Now I'm putting a little bit of red, black, red, and white, or black, red, and water, sorry, on your brush is going to amp up these little dark marks. I don't need to do much. I just want to make sure that I've got everywhere kind of taken care of, and that I've got enough of the darkness where I wanted to have it. So just making sure I do that before I hit it with my with the brightness that I'm going to do. I think that looks pretty good. Let's kind of amp up this so we make sure we can see that. That looks good. I'm going to now switch back to that, back to the blender to get my highlights on here. I'm going to go with just red and white. So washing my brush, I'm picking up, actually, no, I'm going to go white with my light red. So white with my light red first. My highlight or my light source is up above, and the stick is inside the middle of the lollipop. So this highlight is going to lay on top of that, of the stick part. It's not going to bump over, it's just going to lay right on top of it. So I'm just using a little bit of my light red plus white right now to establish this shiny part, or the lighter part of the lollipop, in through here, as if it's just getting highlighted by that light source. And I can also put some at the top edges. So again, my light red plus a touch of white. Maybe I've got, maybe we've got some right in through here. And then just kind of rub it out. And again, this highlight is sitting on top of the lollipop. Picking up some more of my light red, and it would catch those edges the most. So I built it from the interior out, so we can have this lightness on the exterior of the lollipop. I need a little bit more white. So I'm using that light red plus some white just to get myself that exterior light. And then I can also pick up just white. When I feel I've got most of it on there, I can pop on any, I need to wash my brush because it's not white enough yet. Washing my brush, I'm going to pick up some white. Is that dry enough? It is. And then I can scoot down this really bright highlight right along this edge, wiping my brush off, and then I can just kind of tap it out. I don't need it to be a firm line. It's candy, so it's got these soft edges to it. So I'm gonna soften this. I'm gonna put a little bit of red on my brush too. Soften this bottom edge, and then this top edge, I'm just gonna kind of bring little pieces of it out. So that way we see that it's there. It kind of goes over the side a little bit, and you can even bring this highlight up here just a little bit so you can see that there's the edge or the side of it. And then you could do a tiny bit up at the top right. I know that the light source is up there, so but you also have a white canvas underneath, so you want to just kind of make sure that you don't overdo that edge where you can't see it. So again, just kind of allowing for a brighter little spot there. So I think that looks pretty cool. I'm going to move to the to this one over here. Still using my blender. I think I'm going to just pick up a little bit of white, because I think that this one's pretty good. I do need the words. I'm going to put some heavy white right in through here, and then just kind of blend it out. I feel like maybe a little smudge in through here, and then just soften that edge. You could have some of it kind of coming down this edge a little bit. I don't think I need to do much more than that to that one. That one's fun. Maybe a little bit. Just a little bit here. And then down here, I think that looks pretty good, but maybe just, I'm going for a little bit of the light red, just to kind of give this a little bit more texture down here. There we go. I need to put my words on here. So you can have whatever words you want. I'm going to go for a little, I'm actually going to use some of that light red color plus my shadow color. So I'm going for, or I'll just make some kind of like purpley color with pink, red, blue, just some kind of, I don't know, tone that you want to write something on. You could draw it with your hands. I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to write hug me, and I'm going to do it this way. I'm just going to go really fast to start, so I can just kind of get an idea of where I want it on there. Just kind of allowing my brush to skip along. Let's hope I don't spell it wrong. Hug. And then I think these letters are supposed to be kind of uniform, but you can make them whatever way you want. Okay, that looks pretty good size. So now I'm just gonna use a little bit of that same color with a little bit of water on my brush. I want it to just kind of look kind of messy, so I'm just pushing my brush a little bit, giving myself that little messiness to it, reloading with a little bit of water on my brush. To just, I don't want it to look too messy, but I definitely want it to feel like it's candy written, like it's from, been tousled around in that candy bag. I don't know if you've ever eaten these kind of candies before, but I think a lot of times they come in a bag that has 100 of them in there, and because they're of this kind of like chalky type substance, they all get like beat up and they got chips and stuff all over them. So have fun with it. You can even pick up some of your pink and just, do whatever you want with it. I just put a little bit of a darker tone on my brush, so you could make little shadowy stuff in there if you wanted to, and then you just have fun with it and make it into whatever you want. You could write kiss me, you could write be mine, you could write whatever fun message that you want in your little holiday candy. And I think I just want to do one little pass with a highlight on this guy, and I might call it, because I think they're super cute. I just put a little bit of white paint on my brush. I just kind of want to amp this up just a smudge in through here, and then maybe just a little bit in through here. And then you, of course, can just keep fiddling with yours as much as you want to. This is, again, one of those paintings that you could fiddle with it for hours, or you could just make it a nice, quick exercise where you're, learning how to do these fun 3D type of things, and then, then go out and buy some candy. I hope you guys enjoyed this painting lesson, and I look forward to painting with you again sometime.